Today, we're diving into the absolutely incredible story of an astronaut's fight for survival, a fight that happened while he was stranded and totally alone on the surface of Mars. I mean, just think about that for a second. It is a genuinely terrifying question. You're 140 million miles from anyone or anything, and there's no way to call for help. Now, this isn't just some thought experiment. For astronaut Mark Watney, this became his shocking new reality. So let's get into how this whole nightmare began. So it all starts with the Ares 3 mission. You've got a team of astronauts. They're on Mars, collecting samples, doing their thing. Everything is going exactly to plan. Until, all of a sudden, it isn't. A sandstorm, way more powerful than anything they were prepared for, just descends on them out of nowhere. Their ascent vehicle, the MAV, is at risk of literally being tipped over and destroyed. Mission Commander Melissa Lewis, she has no choice. She has to order an immediate emergency evacuation. As the crew is fighting their way through this blinding storm to get to the ship, a piece of flying debris smacks right into astronaut Mark Watney, and it tears through his suit. The impact completely destroys his communications and his biomedical telemetry. From his crew's perspective, he just vanishes. 1 second he's there, the next, his life signs are just gone. So, with no life signs, no contact, and the storm about to destroy the ship and kill every single one of them, Commander Lewis has to make the hardest call of her life. Believing Watney is dead, the totally devastated crew launches from Mars, forced to leave their friend and colleague behind. But here's the thing, Mark Watney wasn't dead. He wakes up later, half buried in sand, with a piece of an antenna impaling him. And ironically, that's what sealed the hole in his suit and saved his life. After a pretty harrowing bit of self-surgery, he starts a video log and, with some seriously dark humor, he lays out just how completely and utterly screwed he is. Okay, so after that initial shock wears off, Watney realizes something pretty simple. Despair is a death sentence. His only hope, his only path forward, is to use every single ounce of his scientific knowledge. He has to look at his situation, break down every problem, and basically science the heck out of it. And here's where the scale of his problem really hits you. The next mission to Mars, Ares 4, isn't scheduled to arrive for another 4 years. That's 1,425 days. And he only has enough food rations to last for about a year. He has to figure out how to grow 3 years of food on a dead planet. So how in the world does he pull this off? Well, he decides he's going to become the very first person to grow crops on Mars. First, he brings a ton of Martian soil into the hab. For fertilizer, he uses the vacuum-sealed waste left behind by the crew. Yep, for some leftover potatoes they had. But the real kicker is water. His solution is just mind-blowing and incredibly dangerous. He figures out how to carefully burn hydrazine from leftover rocket fuel to separate out the hydrogen, and then he combines that with oxygen to literally make water from scratch. It is a brilliant and almost catastrophically explosive plan. Now, all of this is happening while back on Earth, NASA and the rest of the world are mourning a fallen hero. They're holding memorials, they're naming buildings after him, all while being completely unaware that their quote-unquote dead astronaut is very much alive and busy farming potatoes. The first clue that something is up comes from a really sharp-eyed satellite imagery technician named Mindy Park. She's just doing her job, looking at routine photos of the old Ares 3 landing site when she spots something that should be impossible. Movement. The solar panels have been cleaned off. The rover, it's been moved. Well, her discovery sends a massive shockwave all the way to the top of NASA. At first, it's just pure disbelief. It can't be. But as they keep comparing the images over time, the evidence becomes impossible to deny. They're forced to confront this unbelievable, insane possibility. Mark Watney is alive. And this timeline really puts his isolation into perspective. For 54 Martian days, they call them sols, he was fighting for his life, all alone, with absolutely no idea if anyone would ever know. It took nearly 2 whole months on Earth for anyone to even get a hint that he was still breathing. So now NASA knows he's alive, but they have to talk to him, right? And Watney, being Watney, figures out how. He remembers the old Pathfinder probe, this robotic relic from the 90s. He takes a long, risky journey, actually digs it out of the Martian sand, and miraculously gets the thing working again. Using its camera, he sets up this kind of crude but totally effective way to communicate with Earth, finally ending his total isolation. So with communication established, it feels like a rescue might actually be possible.
But you have to remember, Mars is a brutal, unforgiving planet, and Watney's fight is far, far from over. Just when it seems like there's a little bit of hope, disaster strikes again.
In a sudden, violent explosion, the airlock to his habitat is just ripped clean off. Now, he survives, but the explosive decompression and sudden exposure to the Martian atmosphere, it instantly kills his entire potato crop, his main food source. Gone. His survival clock just got a whole lot shorter.
Back on Earth, the pressure is just immense. NASA rushes to put together Plan A, an unmanned supply rocket. But because they rush it, it explodes right on takeoff. A total failure. Plan B is this incredibly risky slingshot maneuver where the Hermes crew would have to go all the way back, but NASA leadership forbids it. It's too dangerous. The grim reality is they can't risk 5 more lives just to save one.
But then, the details of that forbidden plan, they get secretly leaked to the Hermes crew, who are already on their long journey back to Earth. So now they have a choice: go home to their families or turn around and go back to save their friend. Unanimously, they vote to mutiny. They defy direct orders, adding over 500 days to their mission. They refuse to leave him behind a second time. And that decision sets the stage for what is, without a doubt, one of the most audacious, most daring rescue attempts you could possibly imagine. It's a complex, multi-stage plan where absolutely everything has to go right. No room for error. All right, step 1 for Watney. He has to drive over 3,200 kilometers to get to the location of the next mission's ascent vehicle. To make it light enough to actually reach orbit, he gets instructions from NASA to strip it down to its bare bones. We're talking removing the nose cone, the windows, control panels, and replacing the whole front with a piece of canvas tarp. Yeah, a tarp. The launch itself is absolutely brutal. The G-forces are insane. That tarp he put on the front, it rips away mid-flight. When Watney finally comes to, he gets the bad news from the crew. The launch worked, kind of, but he's off course and his velocity is way too low. He's not going to make it to the intercept point with the Hermes. So the Hermes crew, they have to improvise, and fast. They actually detonate a homemade bomb inside their own ship to rapidly slow down, but it's still not enough. Commander Lewis ends up on a tethered spacewalk, trying to get close enough to grab him, but the distance is just too great. They're so close, yet so far. With just seconds left, Watney comes up with one last, desperate, brilliant idea. He tells Lewis to have the crew back away, then he punctures the glove of his own spacesuit, using the escaping jet of air like a tiny little thruster to fly himself across that final gap. It is a move straight out of a comic book, and it actually works. He's rescued. The entire story is just this incredible testament to human resilience, to the sheer power of scientific problem solving, but it also highlights something deeper, right? The unbelievable lengths humanity will go to, the insane risks they'll take, the rules they'll break, all for one single life. And it really leaves us with a question to think about. When you're faced with impossible odds, what's the value of one person? And just how far should we be willing to go to bring them home?